The massacre happened by the Hudson River during preparations for New York's Halloween parade. The authorities say the event will still go ahead, but with extra police on patrol.
We will proceed with the parade, and certainly we've added more resources, more police officers, heavy weapons teams, blocker vehicles on the street leading to the route, as well as more sand trucks. And there's also heavy weapons teams being deployed throughout the city at key iconic locations.
Well, we're going to bring in Daniel Shaw now, international affairs commentator. Daniel, thanks for coming onto the programme. Firstly, terrible incident that we're seeing, similar to others that we've seen across Europe. And we just heard the New York City mayor and state governor describing this act as an act of terrorism. What are your thoughts on what's happened?
Well, first and foremost, our deepest condolences to the families who are just now finding out that their loved ones have passed or have been injured. This is a horrific attack. It's something becoming all too common in Europe and in the U.S. Really, the chickens are coming home to roost. One can't help but connect this terror here to a pattern of U.S. terror that has visited so many countries in the Middle East and throughout the world, and we have to denounce terrorism in all of its manifestations.
I mean, we are still speculating, obviously, with any connection, but we can't ignore the fact, as you said, that there are similarities in what we've seen today. What connection are you seeing now? Can you expand on that?
Well, this is not far from the university where I teach. All of Manhattan right now is immobilized. Everyone is trying to assist in any way that they can. I think it's still very unclear, and one can only speculate, but it's interesting how quick Trump and de Blasio and the other politicians jump to use the word terrorism when the killer in Las Vegas, Stephen Paddock, who killed 58 people, they never used the word terrorist, or Robert Deere, who attacked the Planned Parenthood clinic in Colorado, was never called a terrorist. So, of course, we see this incredible double standard. If it's suspected to be a Muslim individual, the word terrorist is thrown about willy-nilly, and if it were a white individual, there we see the double standard. They would be considered mentally ill, but never called a terrorist.
What's interesting, though, that the officials have come out and said that this is a terror attack, and it's happened, we can't ignore it's happened in the heart of America's biggest city. It's a tourist destination. Everybody loves going there. In your opinion, what are the potential security implications now?
Well, with tens of thousands of people out tonight and children who should be carefree, trick-or-treating in the Halloween tradition, people are now very afraid. There's a Halloween parade tonight. I mean, there's security everywhere. And of course, this is a very polarized city. So many people don't see the NYPD as security. They see the NYPD as terrorists. So the idea of more police in our streets, in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, in our communities, is again a very polarizing thing. It's by no means any type of solution, but one can feel as one travels across Manhattan a heightened sense of security. There's more than the usual police who are armed to the teeth. So one can feel this ambiance of security across Manhattan.
What's interesting, Daniel, as we've seen in the aftermath of other similar attacks across Europe, is the solidarity with the people. But you've mentioned this Halloween parade that's taking place. How secure do you think are people going to feel so soon after this attack?
I can't imagine people are feeling very secure right now. We live in a world where there's different manifestations of terrorism, whether it's in the form of U.S. bombs dropped on Libya or on Iraq. And then what we see is a colonial boomerang of violence. There wasn't this history of suicide bombings. If you go back 2, 3, 4 decades. Suicide bombings are a relatively new phenomenon in history that have been used in retaliation for bombs that are dropped from 2, 3 miles up in the sky by U.S. or Israeli planes or whoever the aggressor is. So we have a situation where one terror incident generates more terrorism incidents, and how important then to denounce all forms of terrorism. And of course, the people of the world, what they want is peace. And ISIS and Trump and the neocons, they feed off of one another because one's existence justifies the other.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about almost some of the reasons. We're looking at the aftermath again of another horrific attack, but how likely is it the solutions are going to be found for these lone wolf attacks, as they're being called at the moment?
Well, it's very difficult to stop a lone wolf person who appears to be mentally ill or certainly searching for what we call his suicide by cop. He jumped out of this truck after plowing through dozens of people, killing 8 horrifically with 2 fake guns, a pellet gun and a paintball gun. He was looking to be shot by the police. And again, it's all speculation, but Fox News and the media, the mainstream media, has jumped so quick on this case as a terrorist case when it seems very premature to draw that conclusion. But as every Muslim person in this country knows, there's such a history of stereotyping and scapegoating Muslims that really this is going to be part of a crackdown on Muslim people, as they've known all too well now since 9/11.
Isn't that important, Daniel? You made a good point, the distinction between the extremists and the general Muslim population in the US.
Yeah, very important to draw that distinction. There's millions of Muslims who live in this country, and of course, the vast majority of Muslims and the vast majority of human beings and Americans want peace, and they believe in peace. And that's why I think it's important at this moment to use these lives so that they're not lost in vain, but to learn from that. What we suffered today in New York City is but a small example of terror. What do the Palestinian people suffer every day? 8 Palestinians were killed yesterday by the Israeli army. And what have the Libyan people been going through since 2011, and the Syrian people? So it's sad that it takes these incidents for the American people to begin to empathize with what people are suffering across this world.
If we go back to what actually happened, according to the police, the perpetrator was holding imitation firearms, and there is speculation that this does not sound like typical behaviour for a terrorist. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, this individual, we don't know his skin complexion, we don't know details, but very quickly they're saying it appears he yelled Allah Akbar and that he must have been a Muslim. It's very premature. And again, it fits in with the general climate Islamophobia, especially in the United States of Trump, that exists. They want to scapegoat Muslims, they want to scapegoat immigrants. Trump surely is going to use this to justify the building of this wall, this anti-human wall. And it's going to be more of the same demagoguery, Islamophobic and anti-immigrant demagoguery.
OK, Daniel Shaw there, international affairs commentator. Great to have your analysis on what's happened, this terrible incident that's happened this evening. Thanks very much.